Perfect. Okay, so we're being recorded. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming today. This is going to be our final Read 180 PD for the 22-23 school year. I'm Luann Marinucci. That being said, even if it's the final one, if you ever have any questions at any time, please don't hesitate to reach out. I try to put myself out there as much as possible. I don't mind if you text, if you call, if you email, whatever you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. I don't know if this session is going to last until 2 o'clock. We'll just have to see how it goes. As I mentioned, a lot of this is going to depend on you, on meeting your needs. The first thing I need you to do is to copy this link, and I'm going to put this in the chat, and I just need you to go ahead, please, and fill in the attendance link. Let me know if there's any kind of problems with that URL, please. And then if you just give me a thumbs up, let me know that you've completed it. That'd be great. Awesome. Okay, and those of you who are choosing to not show your faces, if you could just let me know, like, if I'm moving too fast or whatever, but please make sure that you are completing that attendance link. This is a brief overview of what's going to happen. Thanks, Fid. Today, so welcome and introduction. I'm doing that now. I want to celebrate our wins, and I want to talk very blatantly and openly about what's working. And then also we're going to talk about our struggles, and we're going to talk about what's not working. A lot of times the best way to deal with these things is to collaborate and work together and share out ideas. While I have been teaching Read 180 for several years now, I certainly do not know everything, and you guys are all bringing things to the table, and I would love for us all to share. I feel a lot of times in PDs, we're given a lot of information, and we're not, oftentimes we're able to apply the information, but I just want to share it. I want to hear what's working for you guys and what's not working for you, and, troubleshoot problems that we might be having in our classes. Okay, so that's the overview. I'll send this PowerPoint to you at the end of the presentation as well, so you have it. Again, I'm Luann Marinucci. As you've seen this, I haven't changed that picture since COVID. It's my 8th year here at Pickett. I am in a new role this year. I am the high school low incidence case manager and teacher. But I've taught Read 180 in many different ways. I've taught it as a block period to high school. I've taught it as a block period to middle school, and I've taught it as single periods for high school, just Read 180, and then also, like I'm doing this year, single period Read 180 and System 44. So all those classes obviously look very different, even though you're using the same program. Our mastery mission, we always want to keep this in mind, that all students learn the academic and personal skills they need to be truly prepared for post-secondary success and able to pursue their dreams. Reading is such an important part of this. And this is one thing that I always tell our students, is that reading is probably one of the most important things that you're going to learn in school. Sorry, math teachers. I am also a math teacher now. This year, I'm teaching math in addition to reading, but I will say that reading is just something that they are going to encounter every single day to some capacity or another. So I try to impart that on our students, that this is really important. So I want you to think for the next 60 seconds, and I'm going to set my timer because sometimes time doesn't always move the way that I think it's moving. But so for the next 60 seconds, I just want you to think, what are your biggest wins for Read 180 this year? So it can be involved with rotation success, student growth, student mindset, individual successes, whatever it is that you want to share. And please put your top 3 in the chat. Okay, so think for 60 seconds, and then after the 60 seconds, I'm going to have you put the top 3. Please don't put the top 3 in until I tell you to go. And the reason is because while you're brainstorming and typing in, you might think of some others. So I just want you to take 60 seconds, and that time is starting now. Hello, those of you who are coming in, I'm going to put the attendance link in the chat. So please go ahead and make sure if you're just coming in, you're filling in the chat, filling in the attendance link, and then you're spending the next 60 seconds thinking about your biggest wins for Read 180 this year. And you're going to put your top 3 in the chat after the 60 seconds. So the 60 seconds starts now. Welcome, everyone. Please make sure that you are filling in the attendance link. And then right now we are all just thinking of our biggest successes this year with Read 180. We've got another 20 seconds. Okay, and that is time. Now, if you would spend the next 30 seconds, or however long it'll take you, go ahead and put your top 3 wins or successes for Read 180 in the chat. Okay, great. I see a couple responses here. And go ahead and keep putting those responses in the chat. I have 3 people so far. I'm looking here, I've got some great things here. And then go ahead and read over what other people are putting in. Great, love these. So thoughtful, these responses I'm seeing in here. Hello, welcome. If you're just joining us, please make sure you filled in the attendance link. And then go ahead and put in your top 3 wins for Read 180 this year. Just to call out some of them that I'm seeing. I love that I'm seeing a lot of people are putting in that there has been some growth, which is awesome. Student growth has been listed by a couple of you. Also independence. That is something else that I also really love about Read 180 is that it's not completely teacher directed the whole time. Looking through transferability of skills. Absolutely. I love also that skills are carried from one mode to another. So we talk about it in whole group, and then it gets further addressed in small group, and then they practice it in student app for sure. So I agree with that for sure. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad to see there's a lot of positivity from what I can see here. Please feel free to continue to put in wins. Does anybody want to come off of mute and discuss any of the things that they put in here?
Hello, how are you? I'm
Hi.
Bernetta Wimbert. I'm
Hello.
sorry, I just got in. I had a challenging time trying to get in, sign in, but I'm in.
You're fine. You're not alone.
I'm Matt Shoemaker, and I'm the for middle school.
Okay.
reading. My success is student growth. It has really, really, really grew, and I'm glad, and it continues. The rotation is also a success because they love it. They love the rotations because I have a double block.
Okay.
So
long
it's
class.
movement. They just not sitting in there. They engaging, and they learning as they grow. So they love the rotations when they on the platform. They love the small group. They love when they in the independent reading library. I had a little section for them where they could sit and enjoy. So they love that rotation, and I love the rotation because the rotation showed the growth.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. That's excellent. Does anybody else want to share out anything particular?
Yeah, I was gonna say that this macro data showing that like the diagnostic testing, there's all showing growth is really helpful for me because like right now in my Read 180 class, like I have like a couple like just small classroom behavior management like issues that I'm trying to work through. So like sometimes I leave class, I'm like, oh, that was a terrible class, it's a terrible class. And then like I look at the data, I'm like, yeah, it's all right, it's going all right.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I can give you my personal success story with Read 180. Has to do with my own child. I am the mother of 3 children, and my youngest child is now a senior in high school, and she's actually taking an AP English class. But this is her first year without an IEP. She had an IEP from grades 3 to 11, and reading was her primary focus. And Read 180 is the course when it was implemented with Fidelity. So it wasn't implemented with Fidelity in grades 3 through 6. So, but when she went into 7th grade, that teacher did implement the program with Fidelity. And by 8th, but I would say, well, she started to turn around a lot, but there wasn't a whole lot of growth. She just seemed more receptive to reading in 7th grade. And then in 8th grade, she grew 5 grade levels. She went from a 3rd grade reading level to an 8th grade reading level in 1 school year, which was at that time the equivalent of 15 LLI levels. So it was amazing. It was awesome. And it really made me an advocate to bring Read 180 to Pickett, because I'm like, hey, if this kid can do it, anybody can do it, because I'm tearing my hair out, you know. And so it definitely, when it's implemented with Fidelity, it can be a really fantastic program. And I really think that it's not so much the program itself, like what we can impart. I mean, yes, that obviously plays a big part of it. And we're going to talk a lot today about how data is important, and we have to use that to drive our instruction and everything. But really, it was the amount that it makes them read. The only way you're going to become a better reader is by reading. So while we can sit there and teach them strategies and we can tell them about all kinds of stuff that way, really the best way that they're going to become better readers is to read. And Read 180 did that for my daughter too. So I can definitely say as a mom and a teacher that it can be a fantastic program. However, that being said, nothing's perfect. The struggle is real. And it definitely can be real. So I want you to take another 60 seconds and I want you to think about your biggest struggles right now with Read 180. That is what our biggest focus is going to be on today, is we just want to work through these struggles. We want to figure out what's happening, what's hindering us, what is making us struggle with implementing the program, or what kind of struggles are we seeing with our students. So it can be from rotation, student growth, student mindset, individual struggles, whatever it may be. Go ahead and put your top 3 in the chat after you think about it for a minute. So I'm going to start my clock now. 1 minute. Go ahead and just start thinking about what are some struggles. Go ahead and you can list them on a piece of paper near you or something. And then after a minute, I'm going to have you put those struggles in the chat, please. I'm going to put the attendance link in the chat again. If you didn't get a chance to fill that in, make sure you do. Okay, last 5 seconds. Okay, and that has been a minute of thought time. So now I'm just going to ask you to go ahead and put in, it says your top 3 in the chat. If you could, you don't have to put 3 in. If you just put 1 in, just something that you're struggling with, something we can focus on together and work through, that'd be great. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to put another minute on my clock here to try to keep us on track with time. See some responses already. Yes, I'm definitely seeing that what I'm seeing in here so far. I can tell you, I can empathize completely. Go ahead and please put in any kind of struggles that you're having with Read 180. And we have 2 responses in here so far. Oh, 3 now. That's great. Thank you. Hello, welcome. If you're just coming in, I'm putting the attendance link in the chat. Please go ahead and fill it in. Okay, and that has been a minute. So I'm definitely seeing some, if you could put more responses in, that'd be great. I will just narrate some of them because these are things we're going to be focusing on. Okay, so these are struggles, rotation engagement, students refusing small group. So refusing to participate in small group, Caitlin, is that okay? Independent reading tracking, absolutely, yes. Like having them fill in a daily reading log is wonderful because that does hold them accountable. But as teachers, it's kind of hard to keep up with those reading logs and to make sure that we've read them. I will let you know that there are synopses for all the books. On Read 180's website. You can just search that and they'll come up, and that helps so that you don't have to actually read all of the books. Only for 45-minute class period. Yes, hello, I'm in the same boat. And after teaching Read 180 in a block for several years, and then to have to go to a single period, it's hard. By the time you get them settled and get them moving and everything going, time's up. It's time to move on. Growth mindset. Yes, that can definitely be a struggle too. Looking here, student engagement, student mindset for independence. Yes. Oh, yes. Seniors don't want to participate. Getting kids to buy into student app. A lot with the platform. Yeah. 100%. Tech fatigue. Yes. Thank you so much for your feedback. I can say that all of these things definitely resonate. I've experienced them all as well. We're going to talk about some of these things. And then others, like at the end, I built in specific times so that we can kind of give each other ideas about, especially when it comes to engagement, like how do you keep them engaged, or growth mindset. These are students who are in Read 180 have likely been failing for years. So they already come in with like, I can't read. this is stupid, I don't understand, or they just say, this is for babies, I don't need this, whatever it may be. It all is linked to mindset, and it's often linked with not being successful previously. They're bringing their years of failure with them. So yes, we will definitely, I will definitely have time built in at the end so that we can share out about ways of trying to keep students engaged. I had sent out last week a little plea for help from you guys, because I wasn't really sure. Kersulik had said, it's up to you guys, come up with a great PD for the end of the year. And I was like, but I want to make sure that I'm talking about things that these teachers want to talk about. Your time is valuable. So that's why I sent out the survey, and this is the feedback that I had gotten. So is my screen being shown still? Can you guys still see it? Okay, cool. So, you know, small group lessons, it looks like people are feeling pretty strong about that. And we're all, you know, we're teachers, and we like to, you know, we like to work one-on-one with our kids, or in small group. It's an ideal situation. So that's not altogether surprising. Using data to inform instruction. Yeah, you know, you get this data, but like, what do you do with it? So that's definitely an issue. And then whole group lessons. So, but these are things that, you know, people are feeling successful about, but at the same time, some of these things are things that people aren't feeling so successful with. So you see here that the data informant and lessons, while that had some people feeling successful, I think the previous slide said it was 16.7%. Now in this slide, it shows that when greatest need for implementing RAID 180, it's 66.7% are having trouble with this, having trouble using this data. And the thing is that RAID 180 is all about data. It's only as successful as utilizing the data and implementing it is. So like, if you're not using the data, then you're not going to be as successful with RAID 180. So we're definitely going to talk about that. Other areas of need that came up in the survey were whole group lessons and making groups. So what I did with this data that you guys gave me was I took these three big components that you guys have listed as the greatest needs and kind of built a presentation around them. And then also, like I said, I want to hear us talk as a group about like how we can come up with problems and solutions for these problems that people are having. So the biggest area we'll get to last. I figured out we could tackle the two smaller areas first. So the first thing I just want to give you a review about, and this is definitely a review. You guys have seen this slide before. I stole it from a previous presentation that I've given, is about whole group. The way that RAID 180 wants you to present whole group is they want you to basically do the left side of the real book. If you open it up and you have the 2 pages, the left side is for whole group, and then also the top of the right side. So those are the things that are supposed to be implemented during whole group. But there's things that you can do that can supplement your whole group instruction. Okay, and I want to show you, I'm just gonna, and I would definitely need somebody to make sure that that my screen's sharing as it should be, but I want to show you some of these resources here that you can find on the RAID 180 site that'll help you with your whole group instruction. So some of this stuff you can use in whole group and in small group, but they're definitely worthy to look at. You are going to find these resources if you're in your, if you go into, did it switch over to the RAID 180 entrance site? Cool. All right. And if you click into it now, here's where I might have to reshare. I guess I started this a little while ago. Let me try this again. Just let me know if at any point you're not seeing what I think you're seeing. Okay, so I should be going into RAID 180. Hopefully you're going to see that. Okay, do you guys see my RAID 180?
No.
No. Okay,
Just
thank
still
you.
the HMH SAM.
Yeah, so this is what I remember from COVID teaching. And I would always have a student be like, no, Marinucci, it's in share. You gotta unshare and share again. Are you guys seeing it now? Where it says the digital? Okay, cool. Okay, so now if you look here, if you go into your resources tab, you can click in the resources tab again. Like I said, if it's not moving or if it's not moving with me, just let me know. And you're going to see here in resources, you're going to see this priority standards resources. Okay, then you're going to see the resources for differentiated instruction, which is System 44, but can be very helpful for Read 180 as well. Okay, and then also the distance learning. So these are 3 things that I'm going to be talking about specifically. And then also down here where it says the workshops. Okay, so I just wanted to show you where those things were before I got into what they were. Let me just minimize this. And now I'm switching back to my presentation. Do you see it? No. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm going to close my chat. So just let me know if you send something, like kind of raise it up because it's just one more thing to have on here. Share screen. Okay, here we go. All right. So now, the first thing that I showed you, the priority standards resource. Okay, this actually is based on each workshop. So you can go into whatever workshop you're currently teaching in whole group. And the things that they offer, first of all, they lay out each skill that's being taught. So remember, I've told you before in the last presentation, we talked about how important data was, and you have to, isolate the data to figure out the needs of students. And say you have 5 students that they all are really, really struggling with key idea. And you're like, okay, well, they offer me one key idea question in the Read 180 lesson. That's not quite cutting it. Well, the nice thing is if you go into this priority standards resource where they lay out the skill, they'll show you where in the entire workshop, key idea or whatever the skills that you're looking for is covered. So you can actually jump to certain areas, you can pre-plan, or you can actually pull some things from like in advance. So you can pre-plan for covering that skill or going more in depth. It also has additional resources and teaching strategies that can work to solidify these skills. So that is that first tab that I showed you. I'll demonstrate it after I read this slide, just because the sharing thing is not always so friendly with Zoom. So the second tab that I'm going to show you is the resources for differentiated instruction. Like I said, this is primarily for System 44, but it definitely has guidance to go through that delineates those RDI lessons that we talk about. And a lot of you, I had asked in the survey, how many of you had like System 44 kids with your Read 180 classes? And there was, I think, half of the people who responded to my survey had classes that were made up in that way. But even for people who don't have System 44 kids, you can go into these resources, into this RDI, and you can look and just target certain, like you can tell as a teacher certain gaps in the students' learning, and this would be an excellent resource for you to tap into for those gaps. Distance learning. This offers a bunch of printable resources, and I always kind of knew that. And it's basically like the stuff that we have on paper and on paper usually, but it actually also has vocabulary resources that are not spelled out for you in the real book or in the teacher's manual. So, so definitely check them out. And then the last thing that I'm going to show you are the workshop resources. So when you click in the additional, into the workshop that you're working on, they have anchor videos, they have printable lesson plans, which is really nice. It's, have the big book. And in the printable lesson plans, they offer you details that are not online. So the printable lesson plans are different from the lesson plan that you'll see online, slightly, and that they offer more information. And a lot of times they're going to give you strategies and stuff that might not necessarily be in the online version. Lastly, they also, in the workshop resources, they'll also offer you additional lessons and resources. So they actually give you additional lessons. And this is, if we're targeting skills that need to be covered, that is extremely helpful. So now that I've showed you that, I just want to go ahead and go back into Read 180 again, and I want to show you specifically what these things look like. Are you seeing my Read 180 screen, Caitlin? I just have you right here. Yeah, cool, thanks. All right, oh, look, it's following now. You never know. All right, so the first one, like I said, was the priority standards resource. So when you click on it, okay, you're going to see all these skills listed. You can filter them, you know, to make it appropriate for what you are teaching, the level that you're teaching, the grades, whichever.
Excuse me, sorry to cut you off. I don't see what you're showing. It
Oh,
just
thank
shows
you.
that like home
Wait,
screen.
yeah, it's
Wonderful.
just the homepage. I'm sorry. I thought you were
Yeah.
looking for that
Don't
one.
be sorry, and don't be sorry at all. Thank you so much, and do not apologize for cutting me off. Please cut me off. I don't want you guys to be confused. Okay, can you see now? Are we good?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to cut me off. Please cut me off. But yeah, so these are going to be the skills, and they are delineated by workshops. And you'll see here they have additional resources. So these are resources that aren't necessarily in the real book or in the teacher's manual that that you're going to find, but they're going to give you additional priority skill resources for you to work with. Okay, they are broken down by the workshop as I suggested. Okay, and I want to see here, they like I'm doing reach. Is anybody doing reach workshops here? When you've taught Read 180 for, like, I have some students who I've taught for years, so they already did 1 through 6. So then they do have these reach workshops, okay? And I'll show you where that is. But it looks like they're even covered here as well, so that's nice. Now, the reach workshops don't have print real books. Like they don't have a workbook. You have to actually, I just make one up for the students. I just print the whole workshop out, put it in a, you know, in a 3-ring binder for the students, and that's just the real book. That's how I do it. So that's the first resource that I talked about. And like I said, when you go into it, I'm just going to go into workshop number 1. This is what it's going to look like. And again, this might not share. So if it doesn't share the way that I think it is, please let me know. Download it here. Okay, can you guys see it? I'm going to stop sharing and share just in case. Here we go. Okay, so this is what you're going to look at. Okay, and what this has, it has the, like I said, it has the lessons. Okay, spelled out for you, and it has the skills, and it tells you exactly what skill they're going to be working on for each part of the workshop. So if you are, it's just really helpful for planning ahead. If you've identified that you have 4 kids that are really struggling with the vocabulary, or you have 4 kids who are really struggling with, let's see here, I'm going to collaborate, talking together. There's a lot of that in Read 180, which is really uncomfortable for a lot of our students. They don't feel comfortable doing that, but it's a really important skill. Collaboration is so important, and in life, like not just in reading, but in life. So you can go and you can target it, and you'll see that it's color coded, and it'll even tell you things that it's going to cover, and you can see where in the workshop it's going to cover it. Okay, so it'll go through. So that's a really nice resource that that you can look through. Yes, it takes time, but it is worth it. Okay, so I'm gonna skip from this and go back in and show you the next resource. Also, just for navigating purposes, in case anybody's like encountered this with Read 180, don't use the back button, because you know that just like closes you out. And a lot of times it'll make you like X out. But if you just click on like the little jelly bean thread before it, it takes you back. You guys may have all known that. I did not. And for like the longest time, I'm like, this is so annoying. I have to keep reopening up again when I really didn't need to. Okay, so now are you guys seeing the original resource page now? The first, okay. Great.
Yeah, we're on
Yes.
HMH, Sam.
Yes,
Mhm.
HMH, yes.
Oh yeah, this was such torture to teach during COVID, because it's constantly having to reshare. Okay, now I think you should be seeing it.
Can I ask, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt.
You're
um,
fine.
I have a lot of questions because I'm new to this.
Oh, great.
I'm glad you showed that with the different resources, because I have a lot of students. I teach like 7th and 8th, and they are struggling with the vocabulary.
Yes.
And
yes.
now when you went back to click and you showed the different resources, okay, good. That's going to help. The
No.
issue that I'm also having is when I'm trying to launch so I can show it on the projector so they can see it on the board, the whiteboard. I can't, it's not launching for them, no one to see. It's saying like you have to click on an icon or something, but I did already. Hello.
I am going to tell you that I have had the same problem. for
Okay, I thought I
years.
was like missing a
I-
step. I
It is
started writing
not
the steps
you.
down. Okay.
It is not you, and it is not, I mean, I can't say that is a deficiency in tech for me because it
Okay.
could be, but if it
Okay.
is, I have yet to figure it out. To be honest with you, what I do is I just project my screen. That's what I like.
That's
this.
what I
and then-
have implemented. I said, okay, let me just go ahead and project it because I don't want to, waste valuable time. But okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
I thought it was me. Thank you.
It is not you. You are not alone. And one thing that you can do
Yes.
that I find is actually even more friendly if you're going to share your screen.
Mm-hmm.
If you download the
Mhm.
PDF of the workshop, which you can do like it's in the, when you first open up the workshop, if
Yes.
you download that and have the PDF displays more nicely.
Yeah, I use that
so-
on the other little lamp, whatever. I don't know the name. I'm learning, but I use that instead. Yes, I use that. That came in
Yes.
much better. But thank you so much. I'm a mute. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. No, don't be sorry. Please don't be. You guys are doing exactly what I want you to do.
I'm
This-
sorry. I must have clicked something in my video not coming up. I'm kind of glad it's not 'cause I'm like stuffing my face as I'm listening. So I apologize, everyone.
Do not be sorry. I appreciate your questions and reaching out. And that's what I want us all to do. This is a collaborative session today. So I hope that was helpful to you. But yes, it's not you. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is having success with the launch button, but I just kind of gave up with that years ago and just started doing the PDF because it was easier for me. But the second thing, and you had mentioned we're struggling with the vocabulary resources, and I can tell you that in this distance learning, but that has some great vocabulary resources as well. Okay, so
Thank you so much. Yes, because they're struggling. Okay, thank you.
The struggle is real. You're welcome.
Okay.
Because I know. But yes, so here's the resources for differentiated instruction that I had mentioned. Like I said, this is normally for System 44, but you can find things in here that that could be helpful for all of our students, like even students who aren't necessarily enrolled in System 44. When you click in here, it kind of looks a little overwhelming. What you'll probably be focusing on is this one here that I'm highlighting, lessons. That has the lessons that you can follow. If you want more like the research behind Read 180 and why it works and stuff, these articles will be helpful to you, these research foundations and the overview. But the two that you'll probably use the most are the lessons and then also the RDI routines. The routines are going to be referenced all in the lesson. So you want to make sure that you're implementing the routines the way that they tell you to, so that the lessons are effective. So that's a good resource for that. But yeah, definitely a lot of different, they have a lot of different articles, a lot of this stuff in here, except for those two things, the lessons and the RDI routines. A lot of it is a lot of reading, but it does give you a foundation for understanding where Read 180 is coming from. And a lot of times when you understand where they're coming from, it helps you implement it better. So I'm going to go back here to resources. And then there's this second to last thing that I had mentioned before. This is the distance learning. And if you click in the distance learning, like I said, if it's not going where I think it's going, let me know. Here we have, these are all the PDFs. They actually have a lot more that they can fill in online now, but you can also print them out, which is really kind of nice. And these you're going to use across your resources, or I mean, across your workshops. So they're applicable for all of the different workshops. And if you scroll down and they have all these logs, the do now logs, independent rating logs, if you're looking for ideas for that. But then if you go down, see, vocabulary resources, this is what I was talking about. And there's actually some really good ideas in there. Okay, so the last resource that I want to show you, and these are all things that you can be, like I said, so these are things that you can be looking into, pre-planning and pulling them out, not just for small group. Some of these things the whole class needs, right? So the last thing I'm going to encourage you, click on these workshop buttons. For those of you who had, were asking about or were interested in the REACH, these are the REACH workshops that I was talking about. These are the ones that are not in the real book. But they are additional workshops. So if you're teaching kids year after year and the same kids, and you know, say you do 2 or 3 workshops a year, well, you're going to be done in 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And if you have those kids from, you know, 9th grade through 12th grade, you're gonna be like, oh, what do I do? Now you have these REACH workshops, which are really convenient. I'm working on 9. I didn't do, I haven't done 7 and 8. I just did 9 because I thought it was something that would engage my students in the beginning of the year. A lot of my students, some of them, this is my 8th year teaching them. Not their 8th year that they've had Read 180, because we haven't always had Read 180, but so I was trying to get them, you know, engaged. But I just show you, when you click into these workshops, I don't know if any of you guys have ever gotten into them. This is not just like the workshop, like what you're seeing on your teacher edition, right? These are the additional resources that we were talking about. One thing is nice, it does have the anchor video so that you don't have to go back into the lesson. So if you ever want to re-show the video or something like that, you can access it this way instead of going into the lesson and clicking on the little link that they show. But other things, they have alternative lessons in here as well. So they do have your real book. This is where, as I'd mentioned, if you wanted to download this and have a PDF copy, this is where you can get it from. But they also have different, in addition to the lessons, they actually have some additional resources. Now it varies by workshop, but they'll have, they have some of the things that are in the real book, but some things that aren't, that'd be really helpful, like a glossary, right? They have all these vocabulary words that they talk about all throughout the workshop, but this is like a one-stop shop for you that you can print out for the students and have it posted, you know, on a word wall or something that you have in your classroom. So that's something that you would be doing during whole group, right? So they have rubrics. Then the checkpoints, obviously. So they have stuff that you do have access to. Some of the stuff is repeat, but not all of it. So I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to highlight that and show you all that there are additional resources available, more than just what's listed. They also have these printable lesson plans. Like I said, now this one, you have to be careful. You can see that this one, it says it's the digital teacher's edition lesson plan. That is a different lesson plan. It is not as in-depth as what you're going to get in the teacher's manual. Okay. And in the other area that I'd show you before for lessons. So you have to be, you know, you just have to make sure you're reading very carefully what you're downloading or what you're accessing in terms of resources. So those are just some resources that I was hoping that I could throw out at you. Again, I'm going to send this presentation to you and it's all laid out. Okay, so you don't have to worry about like trying to write furiously. I see a message in the chat. Just want to double check here. Okay. Oh, awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, any questions about resources? Does anybody else know of any resources that I didn't highlight? Go ahead, Caitlin. Yep.
So one thing about the resources for differentiated instruction, so will also not be so much of an issue for me because I did have one student that was under the 5 or the 600 threshold for the Systems 44. They are going to be moving into a foundations class, but before that, so if you don't teach any Systems 44 students, you don't have that button, the resource for differentiated instruction.
Well, thank you for letting me know that. I did not know
No
that.
problem.
Yeah, so I know for
Is somebody I thought I heard somebody talking. Maybe it was just from a, okay. Did you guys hear that? Was somebody talking in the background? Elsa, is that what that was? I don't know.
It might be Fulman because he's also doing his content
It was
lead.
Fulman. Okay, I recognize it was. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure somebody wasn't talking from, because I can't get you all in my view. Like I'm trying to get you all in my view, but it looks like there's 12 people here, so I can't get everybody in, or 10 people. Anyway, okay. All right. So back to my presentation. And if you don't see it again, please let me know. Slideshow. Don't do it from the beginning. Okay, cool. Can you guys all see my presentation?
No.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay. There we go. All right. So these are the resources that I'm referring to in the PowerPoint. So when I send this to you, or PowerPoint slide deck. So when I send this to you, you know where I'm talking about. And I did write that they can be found under the resources tab, although apparently not the RDI. If you don't teach System 44, then you need to go to a friend and ask your friend who teaches. And I can be that friend. I would love to be the friend. I would be honored to be that friend. So if there's ever a time that you think of something that would be helpful for you, please let me know and I'll be happy to send it along. All right. So now, what works for you guys during whole group? Because I heard both. I heard that it's a big success for some people and not a success for others. So can I have feedback either way? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Or what additional questions do you have? And I'm going to stop sharing just so I can see everybody. Okay. Unfortunately, my eyes aren't that great. Is that Annie? Am I saying it wrong?
Amanda.
Yeah, I can't see it. I'm so sorry. Amanda, I'm going to slide you guys over to the big screen so I can see. Hi, Amanda. Okay, I'm
Hi.
looking at you now, even though it doesn't look like it. So-
Something that's working for me so far is definitely student engagement. At first, I was like, I'm a person who's against the rotation only because I only have 45 minutes. So it's a big struggle trying to get both groups all in one setting, especially with doing whole group and then switching over to rotations. It's definitely a struggle. But me actually realizing like, oh, okay, like you actually know what we're talking about right now, like seeing it, because I do have a lot of quiet friends that don't want to say a word when we're in whole group. But the second we're in a small group, I'm like, oh, the whole time you were just underlining all of this like important text evidence, but you weren't sharing it out earlier. So now I'm like, oh, okay, you know what you're talking about. You're just a little shy when it comes to everyone around. So that's definitely been working. Like I love seeing it, and it's showing with the growth as well. From RP1 to RP2, I'm like, oh wow, like this is amazing growth. So it's been good, but it's definitely still a struggle.
That's awesome. Though. That's great to hear. Can you tell me, do you ever not teach the whole group lesson?
What? Oh no,
No.
I did attempt.
Okay.
However, it's just, I think because by the time they get in, and my kids are really good about getting in on time because they know our time is like this, like you basically sit down and then you're basically leaving 5 minutes later. So they'll sit down, we'll go through a do now, it's like 3 minutes, and then we go right into like that whole group, which is the left side, which is vocab,
Right.
introduction, all of that, key idea. But I was also the one that put in the chat, like, okay, time plan versus time actually needed. My kids need more time to get done like a whole group lesson than maybe someone else's group. Like I have some kids that are like, Miss Amanda, I need your support when I'm reading, like, please help me. Like I'm struggling. And I do have a lot of new friends that joined my group too, who are a little bit lower with reading, like I can tell. And the section where I'm actually on workshop 2 right now, and they're just like my little struggle buses right now, but we're all on the train together. So we're going to get there.
Absolutely. You know what? I feel that. And I oftentimes, the reason I ask is because I very rarely am able to get to do the 2 vocabulary, read, and do the key idea. Like it's
Yeah,
just,
like I can get through it. It's just
then
by
there's
the
no
time
time
we
for
have
the
to
system
switch to
rotation.
rotation, it doesn't work. Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, one workaround that I have done is
Mhm.
I just don't do a rotation on that day. Like there are some days where I don't want that broken up. Like I want to do the vocabulary, the reading, and the key idea. I don't want to break it up. There are other days when I'm like, you know what? I really want to do, like, I really need to do my small group rotation today. So I'll just do the 2 vocabulary. And then I'm like, that's it for whole group, going into rotation. And then the next whole group time, I'll like briefly review the vocabulary and then do the reading and the key idea. So I was just curious if anybody else has any other feedback. Like that's how I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I'm just saying that's a workaround that I've done. I mean, and like you said, it depends. Like it depends on the passage. It depends on your students. It depends on, you know, how things are going. Does anybody else have any feedback about like, or anything that they can share out about their whole group experience?
Yes. How you doing? It's Renetta Rembert again.
Hi.
I have a double block, so I'm gonna say I'm blessed.
Oh my God, you're
and
lucky. I want to
yes,
be you.
yes, I gotta step on that. And my thing is, so when they come in, I have to have my do now up there on the projector. They know the routine. If I don't have a journal book, like I put them copybooks, and I use that sometimes for the do now, like a journal, because I go back and I like to check. I check for the writing, the grammar, the spelling, boom, boom, boom. They don't like it too much, but that's what I do. Everything has to be timed
Yes.
because I need to get it all in. So I start with the do now. Boom. I give them, it's a little challenging, 5 minutes. Everybody go, all right, think, write, pair, share. I do use that. And we go around about 10 of them my first period, first and second double block. We get that done. Then I move into the lesson. The lessons for 180 is really not that big. It could be page 108 and 109, and that's the whole lesson right there. And then
Right.
on the side, the vocabulary, then the key idea on
Right.
the other side. And you
Yeah.
trying to implement that. But as I was told from another superior that my lesson should be no more than 20 minutes. Then I should get ready into my rotations. So my lesson is my whole group with my do
Right.
now. Then I get into my rotations, small group, on the platform, or in the library. Everything is time, boom, 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 20 minutes.
Right.
Then I got to do a wrap up, bring them back together as a whole group to prepare them for the exit ticket
Right.
for the lesson that I gave in the beginning of the first block, which a lot of them probably don't forgot. It like, oh, I don't remember.
Just
But
say,
I
here
have
you go.
to bring them back up as a wrap up, as a whole group, so they can be prepared for the exit ticket. And I know I sound like how can I say something with double block? It becomes overwhelming for them and even for me because they don't remember.
Right.
Remember, they struggling with comprehension.
Right.
So I got to go back and refresh it again. But that double block really, really saves me.
Yeah, that I love.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be quiet after
No,
that.
it definitely does. Like the double block, like I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would have had it. Cause I think like with time management, it just would have been a lot more like, oh, okay, I have 20 minutes with my A group and then 20 minutes with that B group, where it's like for me right now, it's like I'm lucky if I can get a full 15 with an A group and then like a full maybe even 10 with my B group, who is my higher group. Like I can't even do the third rotation where it's like the independent reading. So I alternate days between like student app and then independent reading. Have to do that just because it won't fit into the time that we have. And I cut down everything, like do nails 3 minutes, whole group. Like I literally try to shove it in to 10 minutes and they spend at least like 8 with the vocabulary. So like, it's just like, oh, okay, well, we're just not going to get to that reading until we get to the group. And then this week, sorry, our bells are still going off. This week, what I've been doing with my kids is just like right after do now, like what you're saying, go right into the rotations. That way I have enough time. But now like my A group, like how I have younger kids, I usually only have 7th and 8th. Now I have some 5th and 6th shoved in there. So that's a little tricky. So I had to regroup everyone. And then I'm noticing some of my younger ones are like very nervous about reading in front of like the group. And it's like, okay, even if I tell you to do independent reading, are you actually reading it or are you waiting for someone else to give you that idea? So that's the struggle right now.
Yeah.
And
And
building onto that. Okay. We have a single block as well. And so what we do is half whole group and then half rotation, but the class is broken into 3 groups. And so everyone falls into either group 1, group 2, or group 3, and we rotate through the rotations, right? So like maybe on a Monday, we'll do 20 minutes of whole group and then 20 minutes of group 1 on student app, group 2 on independent reading, group 3 on small group, and then tomorrow it'll rotate through. And that makes it a little bit more feasible.
Absolutely. So like an A day and a B day.
Yeah, but with all 3. But we hit more heavily on the student app and the independent reading than we do the small group because the classes are very, very small to begin with.
Okay.
Some of them are only rostered at like, 6 kids. And so on a given day, you see maybe 4 of them. And it becomes a little bit redundant and reiterative to do a whole group lesson with 4 kids and then a small group lesson with like one of those 4. So, you know, we
Because
flex
it's like a small group anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Shannon? I thought that I saw that you had started to say something.
Yeah, thank you. Similar to what other people are saying, we have a 44-minute class, so it's short. I feel that pain. And what I started doing both for like time purposes, because I was trying to get 2 rotations in a period, but it's really hard, is I've actually, for the most part, stopped doing whole group instruction, which maybe not be like good, but it allowed me to work with, I would basically do the whole group lesson, but with my small group as like the starting point. And then that way there weren't these weird issues with time, because basically I can get through 1 or 2 groups, usually 2 groups in a period doing that. And they don't lose any of like, well, we just did these vocab words yesterday, but now I want you to remember them for the reading. It's like, here's the vocab, here's the reading, here's the key idea. And then sometimes like the extension work that they have to do, I only have one of my groups do. And one group usually is my group that I can move faster. So I start with my fast group, get them out of my way. I use my other group and then use them to like kind of fill the period. But I know it's probably not like what we're told to do, but like, I feel like in terms of student engagement and what they're getting out of the lesson, it's just worked much better for us given the time constraints and everything else.
I think what you just said there with what they're getting out of it, that is the most important thing. So whenever and because of time, I'm like 1:32, I have 28 minutes left. So I am going to move on from a whole group discussion, but I am going to say this. The most important thing is what the kids are getting out of it. So if it comes to you're rushing the lesson to get it all in, but if the kids aren't getting it, what's the point, right? You know, like, so, or if it's having to sacrifice, I know that when I taught System 44, and it was just System 44, like for the one class, it was a block period. But even with that, you know, it's like middle school, they were middle schoolers and they were antsy and, you know, I wound up doing the whole group. I did the whole group and the small, because at the time it had been a smaller class and it just seemed to make more sense and they seemed to get more out of it. And my point is that as long as you are getting the information to them and they are working with the information and learning and growing, that I think is more important than how we're doing it. Yes, you should be implementing the rotations to the extent that they're being exposed to independent reading, that they're being exposed to student application, that they're being exposed to these lessons. But I think when it comes to delivery, you have to use logical flexibility for what works with your students to make them grow. Because at the end of the day, that's the important part, is that they're growing. So thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. All the sharing. I love it. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue on just to make sure that I'm covering all the topics that I had said that we were going to cover. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Another area of need that I'd seen was making groups. And so again, this is a slide you've probably seen before. This is one that I've used in just the whole intro to Read 180, how to make groups. You can make groups through the Groupinator, which is on Read 180. You go to, and like I said, I'm going to send this presentation to you, but you go to Teacher Central, you go into Teacher Tools and the Groupinator. It is nice in that it'll come up with groups that it's generated based on Lexile or on skill. I will be honest and say that I will use this as a loose guide. And then when I see that the Groupinator has put 2 students together who are like gasoline in a match, I'm like, oh no, yeah, they are not together, But one thing I do want to reiterate is that your group should not be the same group week after week after week. If you're finding that your groups are the same group week after week after week, you have to look at your own practice and see, are you utilizing your data? Because it's pretty rare that all students are going to be in the same level of however you're forming them constantly week after week after week, especially if you're depending it on the skill. you know, so you might have a group that lexile wise, they're all on the same, right? But then when it comes to like making inferences, you know, Joe is really good at making inferences and, you know, Nakeem is not. And, you know, they might perform similarly on the reading inventory, but they definitely have different needs. So that is one thing I'm going to say. When you're making groups, you need to be very intentional, and you also have to just be willing to let it change. You know, I write mine, and you guys can't see the benefit of having people in person as I could show you. I mean, I just write mine on pieces of paper because they change. They change so often. I'm not going to make it all pretty. Like, look, your name's up there. What group am I in? Look up there. You know, that's a group you're in this week. And sometimes it'll be the same for like, you know, a couple weeks. But if you're finding that your groups are the same week after week after week, you should really look at how you're grouping. Now, the exception would be if you have a super small class. I mean, if you have 6 kids and, you know, these two, and these two are all like kind of, you know, I could see that. I could see these groups staying the same for a longer period of time. When it comes to small group, Read 180, I want you to use the right-hand side of the book when you have the book open. The bottom portion, that is the small group for a deeper dive. I'll be honest, there are some times when I say, no, I want everybody to get this skill, even my System 44 kids. And even though technically my System 44 kids are supposed to be doing the System 44 stuff during small group, I might incorporate something that's in this small group part into my whole group lesson, or I just might teach the small group, the Read 180 small group information to my System 44 kids. I mean, use logical flexibility as a teacher. You know what your kids need. For additional resources, I showed you guys at the beginning of the presentation where you can get some additional resources. I'll be honest, I've had to go outside of Read 180 as well, especially when you've taught the same kids for years after year after year. You might have to do that. The only thing that I would encourage you to do is make sure that you're doing any kind of supplementing. Make sure that you're doing it based on skill. Right? Don't try to incorporate another program necessarily. Just make sure that if you're looking for supplementary materials, you're doing it based on the skill. Now, that being said, that was just an example of like.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can I jump in again?
Please do.
I think I was doing something wrong. Can you go back to the screen when you were saying that Read 180, I should be teaching from the right-hand side of the book?
Yes, right here.
Oh my goodness.
How's that? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay,
so
great.
I should be, could you make it bigger?
Yes, I'm just working on that.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. Please don't be sorry. Okay, it's taking a while to load. There we go. Okay.
So I shouldn't be teaching the whole Raising in the Sun lesson to everyone. I should be on the right-hand side. So I should be doing the small group with the language discussion in each small group.
Yes. So basically from analyze character down right here, that should be taught in small group.
Okay.
So the rest of it, the key idea and the vocabulary, yes, that would be whole group. Yep.
Okay, so I was doing it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Okay.
And you know what? And it's just basically, think of it as a deeper dive. That's how you really need to look at it. It's just a deeper dive. So, and the rationale behind it is that these skills are harder.
Yes.
These are the ones that you want the small group for. Because
yes, I do. Okay.
And then also, if you have System 44 kids, that's an opportunity for to use that class time to teach them on the skills that they need. So while analyzing character is important, being able to read the words, being able to decode is more important, you know, so that's their mentality behind it, is that they're saying like, okay, this stuff is important enough to teach the whole group and we want them to get the key idea. We want them to understand the gist, but instead of deep diving further into the text that you're currently reading, For system 44, they're like, now we want you to focus on the skills that those students need in their small group time. So that's why they have that set up like that. But no, you are absolutely correct in that you should be teaching the left side of the book should be taught to the whole class, and the top right-hand side should be taught whole class, but then the rest should be small group.
Okay, I was
that
like,
make
thank you
sense?
so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then this was just an example. We already went into this. I already showed you. You can specifically look for specific skills that you want to work with your students with. So that's what those are. I'm not going to show you my video. You can watch it on your own if you'd like. No, I'm not showing it. Skip. Thank you. Okay, so for system 44 small group setup, you're not going to have the groupinator. Okay, there's no easy way to set up the system 44 groups other than to just go into the data dashboard, go to whatever series they're currently working on and group them that way. Now, you might have, out of 9 kids, you might have kids on 7 different series. Try to just chunk them together to the way that makes sense for you, right? So, if you're on, you have kids that, you might do series 1 through 4, and then you're just going to come up with lessons that you feel would benefit everybody. I usually go for like what would be, more of like a challenge for some of the kids, and do some series 4 stuff, even though that might be a challenge for series 2 kids, because they're going to pick that up, but then you're also still reaching the series 4 kids as well. You know what I mean? So just use logical flexibility in that way. But that's how you would set up your system 44 groups. There is no groupinator. You just have to do that. And this is another perfect example of why you need to be making groups every couple weeks, because you're going to have kids who are going to be in the same series for a full week, and you're going to have another kid that's going to fast track through some of them, and they might be 2 series ahead by the next week. So then their group would need to change. Now, these are just the resources that you would use for small group for system 44 students, the Decodable Digest, and the resources for the RDI. That I've mentioned previously. Do not try to print it out. It won't print out nicely. I'm just letting you know. Okay, but they do offer some printable materials for you as well. You're going to find them in the resources, under the resources tab and under the RDI tab as well. You can access those resources either way. Okay. This is data. I don't want data yet. I want your questions. What were the questions that people had about making groups? Because somebody said that, or at least a couple of people said that they were struggling with making groups, that was one of the needs. So I'm very curious, what were those needs? If somebody would you please put it either in the chat or come off of mute and just let us know, what are some of your struggles that you're having with small group, if you're having any struggles with like making groups together. Putting groups together. Was it anybody here?
Well, I didn't realize to change the groups. Like I have changed them every marking period based on diagnostic results, but coming into my small groups, I find them maybe one student is good on this scale and they really shouldn't have been in this group. And then now looking through it, I'm like, oh, I can change the reason I'm putting them in the group based on I was looking at the different categories, and that I was looking at the grouping. I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty good group. And these all sound logical, that it'll be better to plan for.
Excellent. Good. Also, don't forget, look in their student application data. Okay. In their student application data, it's going to tell you there, and you can also, if you go to, I'm going to stop sharing because I'm sure that it's not going to follow. But if you go into your data dashboards, I'm just gonna, let me share my screen now that I'm here. Okay. If you go into your data dashboard, okay. If you go into the Read 180 student application and you go into their specific data as a student. So if, Let me see a student who's here. Well, we'll do Joe. Because Joe's here pretty often. You can see areas where he's going to be excelling in or not excelling in, and that can give you an idea. Also, if just staying out of that, if you just go to diagnostic skills, and let me know if it's not following, guys. But this is huge, this diagnostic skills, because this literally will tell you. So if you look at Joseph's data right now, you can see he's got central idea and details down. Like Joe's real good with that. But then when it comes to summarizing, he only answered 2 out of 9 questions correctly. You know, so when I'm making a small group, if I'm going to focus on summarizing one day, I'm going to pull the kids who are struggling in the student application on summarizing. I'm going to pull them and make a small group with them. And I might decide, you know what, we're going to do this for this week. So I might have this group, because I only have single period classes, I might have this group only twice this week. And that group, I'm going to work on summarizing. So I'm going to pull all the kids that struggle with summarizing and have them in one group. So the diagnostic skills is huge. It will really help you with making your groups, because you can see here now. I mean, if you look at author's point of view, you can see Joe got 0, but it's because he got the one question wrong. So it's really important to look and see, like, how many probes are they giving them, you know? I go over this data with my students regularly as well, so that they know where they're doing or where they're at and how they're doing and what they need help with. And I often do point out to them, I'm like, hey, don't freak out if it says 0% or 50%, you only had 2 questions, you know? So just, you know, take that into consideration. That it doesn't mean that you can't summarize it all, you only, or whatever it was, you know? So just kind of take that into consideration. All right. Oh, it did not share. I'm going to share it again. Does anybody have any questions about making groups? Okay. Okay. I'm going to go back to my presentation, because I was hoping to get you guys out here early, and I don't think that's going to happen. I'll be lucky to get you out on time. I promise I'll get you out on time. I'm not going to keep you past 2. Let me move on. Okay. Slideshow. All right. My computer is really tired today. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is the data. This was a concern for many of you, that at least according to the survey that I had put out. And I hope that we've been talking about data throughout this whole lesson. So it's not like or this whole PD. So it's not necessarily that we're just getting to this now. But like I've said, Read 180 relies on data analysis. If you're not analyzing the data, then you're not going to be utilizing the program the way that it should be utilized. And then your students are not going to grow the way that they're expected to grow. So get your data, but don't just get it from the reading inventory. Get your data from the reading inventory, the phonics inventory, the workshop assessments. You can get it from the student application performance, their independent reading performance. Look at how they're doing on their quizzes. And you can even go back with them individually if you want to conference with them individually, or if you have a group of kids that are doing the same doing the same book, make that a group one week and be like, oh, all 3 of you kids took quizzes on whatever book, you know, have them come together. They can access their quiz again. Okay, let's go over the quiz. How did you get that answer? What did you do? Where in the text did you find your answer? And you can go through it in that way. That's using data to try to figure out like where students are when it comes to certain skills. Whole group data, small group data. Okay, and you're going to respond to the data. You're going to use small group instruction to target the skills and conference with your students. It's really important. Sacrifice a day of the rotations and just conference with your students regularly. Having that one-on-one time, Read 180 is so great with the amount of data. Let the students know what their data is. This is not, you know, don't make it just something that's a burden for you to hold, but let them see it too. They want to know they're doing all this work. You know, where are they standing when they're doing this work? Are they being successful? Are they not being successful? And then then you can talk about why. What do you need to do? And a lot of times the kids will direct us for what they need. Well, this really confuses me, Miss Marinucci. I didn't know, and okay, so you need extra practice with this. And like I said, Read 180 doesn't have all the resources. You might have to reach out and, look for additional resources elsewhere, but at least you'll have like a skill that you're looking for specifically. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, no videos. I'm not doing this to you guys or to me. Okay, so start collecting your data. You're going to form your groups based on data and skills, find your resources, and create lessons to target skills. Those are the biggest things that you can do to utilize your data. As I mentioned in the beginning of the PD, using data to inform instruction was one of the biggest needs that was identified by the survey that I sent out. So now I'm wondering, that I would love for you to come off mute if you wouldn't mind, and just somebody, if you have either something that you do to use data or something that you need help with using data or any questions you have, please go ahead. Now is your time.
I was struggling to use data just because I was like disorganized in my class. But Ms. Fiddler actually helped me out with creating a tracker just so I can like keep track of it. Are my students actually like participating in student application in the independent reading? So while that's like a very minute piece of data, it is like helping me a little bit. So now I need to move that into not just doing it, but like excelling and mastering the skill.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, data trackers are really important. And Read 180, I don't know if I can't really say that they offer data trackers for teachers as much. They suggest what data to track, but if you ever have any need of a data tracker that you'd like, that I have lots of different resources I would love to share. And then also, if you reply all to this group, I'm sure that other people would love your data tracker. If you have a data tracker that works really well for you that you can use in the moment. I'm going to show here just an example.
Yeah, excuse me. I was going to say that if anybody have a data tracker, I would love to see it or use it. I just put up one. Okay.
Okay, so
Today,
here's,
but yeah.
yep, so here's one example.
Okay,
And like I said, I'm going to send this out. Absolutely. But you can see for this one, and this is just one that I've used for lots of different classes, not just Read 180, but as I mentioned, I teach other classes as well. But I like to use it because it's simple. It's just, I can track it for, you could track it for several students on one page, and you just have to know exactly what you're tracking for. Make sure that you record that for yourself, so you're not going back and being like, wow, I've got a lot of pluses in this one, but I can't remember what they all excelled with. So make sure that whatever the skill is that you're labeling it, if you were to use a tracker like this. But yeah, definitely having a tracker out, it kind of takes our hunches and either validates them or kind of shows us areas that we thought that were solidified and they aren't, so you might have like this feeling that like the majority of the class is doing good, but it could actually just be that the 3 loudest students are doing really well, the ones that participate the most, and it kind of gave you that false sense of security that everybody was okay with this skill. But when you go around and you're tracking with the data, you realize, hey, you know what? 6 out of 9 kids didn't get it. So data trackers can definitely help us as teachers separate our hunches from fact. Okay, I really wanted to do this part with you guys, but I don't think we're going to be able to. There's not enough time. So I guess we'll just have to wait until next year for it. But I really wanted to you guys to be able to go through your data and then, identify concerns that you have. I would definitely encourage you to do this on your own though. Go through your data and then like write down, like start being intentional about writing down like, oh, these are the kids that really are struggling. And then once you see that they're struggling, well, why? What is the data saying for why? And then maybe, you can start forming small groups on that and looking for specific resources in that way. But it's definitely helpful to do that. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to this part of the PD. Does anybody have any questions about any of the information that I've gone over, or is anything?
Marinucci, I have a quick question about the student app section of the program. When you go in and you look at what students have completed within student app, there's things like Explore Zone. I have been looking through the books that I have about Read 180 to figure out like, what exactly does Explore Zone mean? So that if I'm looking at that data, I know what is being tested, or what are they doing in Explore Zone, and what skills are housed within that. Do you know the answer to that, or where I can find that information?
So I have two suggestions. The first thing, I mean, I can just tell you from experience, the Explore Zone is basically the introduction to the segment. So they have a video, and then they're introduced to certain basic vocabulary and also questions regarding the video. So I know that just from watching it, but I will show you. Let me hit escape here. Let me close out of this. I will show you in Read 180. I want to get here, and then I'll share my screen. Where'd it go? Oh, technology. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. Share this. Okay. All right. So can you see my screen? Okay, cool. If you scroll down on this main screen, right, as soon as you just hit if you scroll down, there is a student. Oh, here we go. See the student app demo? And that might touch on it for you a little bit. Now, I got to be honest, Kristen, I haven't looked at this video in several years. It's been some years, but so I can't remember exactly if they go, but I'm pretty sure they do give you some details about what's in each of the zones. Can anybody speak to that? Does anybody know? Okay, let me know. We're in the same building, so
I can do that.
Okay, keep me posted about that one. That's a great question. I want to just go ahead, and I want to thank you guys for being so attentive and for participating so much. This PD relied so much on our working together, so I really appreciate it. I want to go ahead and give you guys the survey to please fill out. Let me just find it here. Stop sharing. All right, and I'm just going to copy this. And this is just, this is, the usual survey that they always give you. Copy. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat. And as I said, I'm going to send this presentation out to all of you. Okay. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate at all. Oh, wait, it didn't copy the whole thing. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Copy. Here we go. Don't hesitate, please, to reach out to me at any time. I would love to be able to work through all your questions. I am not by any means the master of Read 180. I've done it for years, and I've done a lot of work with it. But if I don't know the answer, I would love to find out the answer with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you have any exciting ideas, I'm sure that we would all appreciate the email. Just hit reply all, and we can all benefit from each other. So I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope you have an excellent day. I hope that the Eagles win and that we get a day off for the parade. So we can all go through our Read 180 data. But I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay on if you have any additional questions. Otherwise, please just make sure you fill in the survey and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much, Shannon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything. It really helped me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for all of your questions, because You know, as teachers, we all know that your question was also answering somebody else's question, right?
Yes,
So
yes, I asked a lot of questions, but thank you very much. I appreciate your patience.
it's an excellent way to be. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And that is a wrap.